the Polaroid that developed itself in my kitchen sink. The photograph found me before the morning did. It slid out of Katerina's coat when I shook rain from the sleeves, a small white-lipped square that skated across the counter and nearly kissed the faucet. The image was still fog, chemicals sleeping. I knew better than to touch it and didn't. The kitchen smelled like soap and wet wool, and a new perfume that had moved in without filling out a form, citrus poured over stone, a scent that signed its name on the air. We were a house that practiced quiet competence. She slept with her palm open on my ribs like she was taking attendance of my breath. On Sundays, I ironed pillowcases because flat cotton feels like a promise you can keep with heat and time. Our balcony learned to forgive being too narrow for two chairs by letting us take turns and calling it choreography. When it rained at night, we cracked the window and let the city wash its face while we washed each other's. Her knee hooking behind my thigh like a knot meant for boats. My mouth finding that nickel-bright patch beneath her collarbone where breath confesses it wants to be heat. The square darkened in slow weather, clouds inside it deciding what to be. Shadows lifted out of milk, a headboard pretending to be walnut, a lamp with a shade I didn't recognize, the corner of a mirror slanting toward an unmade confession. Then the human geography, a woman I knew perfectly from the shoulder inward, her caught mid-laugh, chin tipped, eyes shut the way she shuts them when she is saying don't move. Beside her, almost inside her, a man I would have sworn was me if my jaw had learned a stranger's barber. The mirror caught them both from the ribs up. The woman's mouth open, the man's hand spread where the collarbone hollows. The corner held a polite signature, time and place scrawled in a silver pen. 109, Harbor Line 609. The sink forgot about dishes. I rinsed nothing. I stood there with the square between my thumbs, the way you hold a passport you didn't apply for, and waited to see if the image would revise itself into something less true. It didn't. Film is honest in a way digital never has to be. It doesn't offer edits, just development. We'd been good at an ordinary that made promises sound like furniture. She started wearing the mineral perfume a month back, around when her phone learned a two-note chime at 12:06 and 12:11 that behaved like a doorbell for a smaller house inside ours. London, she said when she caught me listening. Their morning keeps stepping on my midnight. She began showering in the dark. Migraine, she told the mirror. I learned to shave by memory and called that loyalty because questions are expensive, and this economy is unkind. Evidence is the frightened man's hobby. The kitchen is a very good lab. I made a folder on my laptop named Rinse because I wanted the work to sound practical. Into it went a photograph of the photograph, a scan of the silver handwriting 609, a screenshot of our credit account showing a charge I had not made. Sea salt martini ×2 at 0041, turntable rental, lost door hanger fee, always the dumb poetry of it. Under the passenger seat of our car, I found the obedient half of a cufflink, mother of pearl in gunmetal, the size of a coin you pay a ferryman when your pockets are faith. I held it to the lamp and watched my face bend wrong in the milky eye. We met in a stairwell on a night the elevator did what elevators do, teach patience with bad lighting. Stairwells tell the truth, she said, shoes in one hand, a grin rehearsed toward trouble. On the landing, she pressed her thumb to the thin place at my wrist and told me to keep still while she learned me with her mouth. Later, in my bed, she slept with her palm over my ribs like gravity had applied and she was co-signing. The next day, I photographed her shoulder in honest light, a small navel of shadow where the collarbone meets want. The room agreed to remember us kindly. The photograph dried into conviction. I slipped it back into her coat because I wanted the morning to announce itself in the order I could stand. The kettle considered screaming. She came out soft with sleep, hair wearing the night like a shawl, lips the color of a conversation I would lose. "You're up early," she said, and kissed me with accurate affection, the kind that recruits your body while sparing your hope. Under the table, her foot found my shin. Our oldest code, stay. I cooked because heat persuades hours to admit what they're becoming. I salted water until steam rewrote the kitchen's handwriting. She told me the pitch had turned a corner. "Which one?" I asked the pot. "The kind where everybody pretends they didn't already decide," she said, smiling into the refrigerator. We ate. We performed our old choreography at the sink, hips close, shoulders negotiating cabinets, the trivial intimacy that asks for no applause. Later in bed, she crossed her knee behind my thigh and guided my hand under her shirt in that motion that tells a room who's in charge of light. My mouth found the coin of heat beneath her collarbone. She made the low vowel that dims a city. We moved with the fluency of people who know their lines by heart and still mean them. In the middle, her eyes went elsewhere for a beat and returned with apology penciled in the margins. "Pencil erases clean if you don't press." I exhaled and did not press. The next day I walked a harbor line for air, which is what you call it when you want a building to tell you the truth without being theatrical about it. Time and expensive discretion in the lobby. Heat lamps pretending the month had not made other plans. The elevators did their arithmetic for people who purchase altitude and call it absolution. At the bar, a man with careful shoulders arranged his glass on a napkin like geometry could be coaxed into mercy. Slate jacket. Jawline that had always been answered. He lifted two fingers in a greeting to no one, and the room responded, because rooms are quick studies. I ordered the cheapest beer the bar resented. The bartender gave me water first, as if I might embarrass myself slower if hydrated. I didn't talk to him. Duels are for hats and centuries that believed applause heals. I carried the photograph in my pocket like an anchor disguised as paper, and went home to the kitchen where things grow honest if you heat them long enough. Sunday required witnesses. Courage likes even numbers. Her cousin Elena can hold silence without stabbing it. My friend Petro moves heavy tables and refuses to narrate about it. I invited them to dinner and called it a menu test because parties are scaffolding. The apartment learned to smell like garlic telling the truth. At 7:52 she texted 15, which in our new arithmetic is 30. At 8:23 she came in with indoor wind on her cheeks and kissed me with accurate affection in front of them. Civilized people practice civilization. We ate. Laughter borrowed our mouths. After coffee, I took out the Polaroid and washed the room with it like a lantern. "Found in your coat," I said, aiming for gentle and landing near accurate. Petro set his palm flat on the table, the international sign for do not let the furniture try to fly. Elena studied my face instead of the image, a discipline and a blessing. "We should talk privately," she said, the conference room arriving in her voice. "We will," I said, "but I need witnesses that I didn't dream a silver pen." They left. The apartment remembered how to be only a room. She touched the Polaroid by its white lip, careful not to smudge more than chemistry. The couple on the glossy rectangle kept laughing, kept being their small fever. "I told myself it was a hallway," she said finally. "Somewhere I could stand without a tour guide. I liked the echo." She lifted the cufflink half with two fingers and set it beside the photograph like a pupil beside a lesson. "Is he married?" I asked, bureaucracy for ghosts. "Separating," she said. "A son, 8. "Do you love him?" The word took a chair and crossed its legs. She lifted her eyes toward the ceiling crack that looks like a river refusing to choose a mouth. "I love who I am when I stop narrating," she said. "With you I started describing myself from above like I owed footnotes to every heat." He turned the placards around and said he believed the painting without the text. She looked at me with a courtesy I wish were a lie. "I loved us like architecture," she said quietly. I wanted weather. "We're going to separate," I told her. "We did the clean work a knife does when it's being polite." She nodded. The hinge between her collarbones relaxed with a relief I couldn't call cruelty because it had manners. "Do you want me to go now?" she asked. "I want you to stop developing in rooms I don't live in," I said. "Pick a door. I'll take the other." Leaving looks fast when the packing happened inside your throat for months. She took the hoodie, the charger that fits everything, the scent that had colonized corners. She left the cufflink half in the photograph and a matchbook with harbor-line serif practicing good posture. At the threshold, she lifted her hand toward my wrist, the old code, thumb to thin skin, and changed her mind midair. The absence of contact still printed a mark. "I was happy," she said, "and greedy, and afraid, and sorry." "You were alive," I said. "So am I." He wrote once, as scripts require, corporate letterhead organized into contrition, respect, timing, a hope we could proceed as gentlemen, a noun that fails modern stress tests. I forwarded it to a lawyer whose office lives above a cobbler. The stairs smell like leather and old rain. She asked the only useful question. "Outcome or scene?" "Outcome," I said, surprising the organ in me that pays for drama. "Good," she said. "Bring boring dates, doors, dollars, screenshots over speeches. One witness who loves you without auditioning, and don't send your heart by text. Judge's itch." I forwarded his note to Petro, who replied with the three-word liturgy you keep by the stove: block, breathe, boil. I boiled water until the window wrote a softer weather over the city's hard face. The bed learned my outline again. The two-note phantom chimed in my head at 12, 11 for a week, and then went to bother someone else when I stopped setting a chair for it. I changed the Wi-Fi password to a sentence about bridges in motion and taped it inside the cabinet where we keep the salt because faith should be findable. I ironed pillowcases badly and let the crease be a record rather than a flaw. The photograph tried to behave. Chemistry doesn't last forever. Weeks later, the contrast softened, the lamp shade faded into a gentler lie, the silver handwriting dulled to a stubborn ghost. I slid the square into an envelope labeled archive and put it in the drawer with warranty cards and batteries and other promises that don't know when to quit. I taught the camera we own to forget other people's networks. I turned off memories on every screen, as if code could be persuaded not to curate cruelty. Desire didn't resign. It reorganized its shelves. Some nights my body remembers the exact weight of her knee hooking behind my thigh and the soft, unreasonable sound she made when my mouth found heat under her collarbone. Memory is accurate and unkind. I let it sing to the chorus, and then I make tea. The kettle's small scream is the only emergency I obey after midnight. I press my thumb to the thin place at my wrist where her old code used to land and listen to the sentence the body never misquotes. "Here, here, here." Once, because endings itch, I walked to Harbor Line at 1:09 a.m., the hour the silver pen chose to believe in. The lobby smelled like time and receipts. The elevators did arithmetic for people who buy altitude as a receipt for absolution. I stood under the heat lamps pretending summer and forgave the numbers for being innocent. The bartender poured water with the same respect he gives to men about to audition for regret. I tipped like apology and went home with nothing in my hands but air I'd earned. I learned the boring heroics. I replaced the filter before it lied. I taught the dishwasher humility with vinegar. I tightened a hinge the right way round and felt my chest do a similar small trick. I run by the river until my lungs forgive me for confusing drama with oxygen. I buy basil and overwater it and apologize, and it forgives me because green things are generous to earnest amateurs. I set 2 chairs on the too narrow balcony and let one be empty without inventing a ghost to sit in it. I opened the window an inch and let the city wash its face. I salt water, I turn the lamp low. The latch catches on the first try. The decree arrived on paper thick enough to cosplay gravity. I folded it and slid it beneath the tray by the door where keys and small solutions live. I carried the cufflink half to a thrift shop and dropped it into a dish with other orphans. It made a polite clink like punctuation choosing an honest sentence. The woman behind the counter said to the air, "Some pairs sleep better apart," and I blessed her with a nod. The last time I saw Katerina, the elevator performed its secular magic of coincidence. We arrived at the lobby on the same chime. She wore a coat the color of decisions and carried a paper bag of oranges like a rationed son. "Hey," she said, neighbor quiet. "Sleep." "Better," I said, and the word didn't ask for applause. She adjusted her scarf and didn't touch my wrist. I admired her restraint and then my own. The doors closed and returned us both to our earned floors. Sometimes, out of mischief or mercy, I fill the sink and develop nothing. I hold blank paper over the water as if patience itself could make an image appear, and then I put it down and accept the lesson. Not everything becomes a picture you have to live through twice. If a photograph ever again tries to develop itself in my kitchen, it can keep its chemistry. I already know what I look like in this light. The room knows my name without a signature. Morning finds a way in through small glass. I stand where I am and let it.